What happens if you build a life around heading outside every single day, no matter what? I'm Amy Bouchatz, and this is the Humans Outside Weekly Outdoor Diary, where I share with you my own insights from heading into nature every single day, no matter the weather. This is my real life, including more than my share of fails, as I tackle the Humans Outside 365 Challenge. Are you ready? Let's go. It has taken me 38 winters on God's good green earth to even begin to figure this out. But now I'm here to tell you about it. And I am absolutely convinced that if we can crack the code on this lesson, if we can really lean into understanding this thing, we can have bigger adventures more often because we won't be quite so exhausted by the ones we've already attempted. So what is it? What is the thing that I've learned that is the most important, life-changing lesson of my winter season outside? Maybe even the most important lesson I've ever started to understand in all of my outdoor adventures. It's this. My nervous system deserves just as much care, respect, and training as any other part of my body, and is just as important for getting outside as anything else. Hang with me here while I explain. This is a concept I first started to understand last year thanks to the work of Sarah Histand, a mental health-focused fitness trainer here in Alaska. Her teaching on this blew my mind, so credit where it's due. Sarah is the master of teaching this subject, and you should check out her work at Mind and Mountain and her women-focused training program, Ski Babes. You can also hear her here on 2 separate episodes of Humans Outside. Respecting your nervous system, she taught me, means knowing that when you head outside to take on a big risk or adventure or a fun day or anything at all, you take your whole body with you, and that includes your nervous system. It is, I have learned, a part of us that we don't stop and appreciate. But it is also the part of our physical beings that has to work together with all of our other parts to make sure we're not just having fun, but physically able to move through whatever challenge we're having. When you encounter something outside and it feels really risky and you have trouble getting yourself to move through it, that is your nervous system talking. When you're super exhausted all of a sudden, not just your muscles, but that deep, so tired feeling after doing something challenging, that's your nervous system talking. When you find yourself in the middle of something hard and really want to quit, that is your nervous system talking. When something feels overwhelming and you just don't want to do it, yep, that's your nervous system talking. How okay you are with risk is a nervous system thing, Sarah taught me. And just like you aren't going to go from never running in your life today to running a marathon tomorrow, you have to train this part of your literal body. If you wanted to run, you'd practice running by working up to your goal distance. If you want your nervous system to get happy, you have to train it and get it used to the work. And that training, Sarah says, is done through titration and pendulation. Those are 2 super fun words. First, you take a baby step into something risky, and then you take a step back. That's what they mean. And then the next time, maybe your baby step is a little bit bigger, and then you give yourself a break. You take risks, you teach yourself that you can, but you also don't live in constant state of risk-taking. Not every moment is a step. Some of the moments are doing something that feels safer or more comfortable. Okay, so that's what I've learned about working with and training my nervous system. And that huge important lesson has helped me unlock the ability to try new things, like learning to snowboard. Because when it was really hard, I knew that on the other side of taking this step was putting the snowboard away while I took a break. And then I could get it back out again, try again, or ride it down a slightly harder slope when me and my nervous system were good to go. But the even more important lesson of all of this was the lesson that is simply knowing that my nervous system is with me in all of this, and that it deserves the same break and recovery time as any other physical part of me. By being able to name it and claim it, I am learning how to identify what it is about any given challenge that is hard, which means that I can then help my body recover for the next adventure without feeling like I am less than another person. Here's an example from just this week. This past weekend was the Crazy Lazy Mountain Race, a run that goes straight up about 3,000 feet over 2 miles, so a very steep climb, and then down the mountain over a 4-mile route. It is very snowy, and because of that, conditions are often very tough to run in. It's easy to sprain an ankle, and I know that because I've sprained an ankle running this route or a race multiple times. At this point, I have done that so many times that my top goal for this year's race wasn't time, it was simply not hurting myself running down the stupid mountain. The race also has pretty aggressive cutoff times for a fairly average runner like me. You need to get past the first checkpoint, about halfway up, in 45 minutes. The next cutoff is 1 hour, 30 minutes at the top, Much less aggressive than the first cutoff, but still tough. And that's especially true if the weather is bad. And boy, oh boy, was the weather bad this year. It was a lovely day at the start line, but as soon as we hit that checkpoint, the wind started blasting over the mountain. I'm talking 20-mile-per-hour sustained winds with gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour. I mean, I thought it was more like 50 plus gusts, but I've seen other people guess 40, so I guess we'll go with that. But it was so windy, and the roar of the wind was incredible. Because the wind was whipping up and around the mountain, we were running directly into it at multiple points, even after changing directions, which was wild. Visibility was low, the light was very flat, which meant it was hard to see the ground, and I was slow going up, but very slow going down. So slow. The slowest I've ever been. It took me a solid 40 minutes to get from the top to an adjacent trail that takes the course fully down the mountain. That's something that should have taken me no more than 20 minutes at most. And that entire time, the wind was howling, blowing ice and rocks into my face and eyes. For about 65 of the 80 minutes I struggled through that wind, I felt like I was experiencing an incredible, yet kind of fun challenge. And then there was a moment that a switch in me turned from this is fun in a weird, not that fun way, to this is an actual nightmare. And that switch, that was my nervous system saying, okay, we're out. And thanks to the work I've done understanding all this, I knew what was happening. I knew that feeling was my nervous system talking. Except, of course, I was on top of a mountain. I could not simply be done. There was only one way out, and it was the way I was going. So I kept after it and finished the race. Knowing why I felt that way makes absolutely no difference in how the day turned out. So, why is understanding all this so important to me? Because it changes how I'm now talking to myself about that race and how I'll talk myself through the next big thing. I am not blaming myself for being slow, 40 minutes slower than last year, by the way, or feeling very ragged after the run. That's my nervous system working with me. And the next time I take on that mountain or any other challenge, I can say, remember how bad that felt? And you lived through it. You've got this. Let's go. Maybe you're not on top of Lazy Mountain in a windstorm, and I really hope you're not because that was dumb. So maybe you're wondering how this applies to you. Here are a few examples. If you're afraid of heights or big drops down rocks, and that's a perfectly reasonable thing to be afraid of, by the way, because whoa, scary, and you find yourself staring down rocks, pause, acknowledge what's happening, move through it, honor that you did it, give yourself some time, remember it next time. If you find yourself alone in the unknown and you hate the idea of taking that risk, pause, acknowledge what's happening, assess your risks and make a decision on your next step. Give yourself a high five that you moved through it and remember this next time. If you're outside and it's cold and you're feeling unprepared, pause, acknowledge what's happening, assess your options and make a decision on what you should do. Be proud of yourself for having the understanding to see what was happening and remember the lesson for next time. By knowing why you're reacting a certain way, your nervous system, you can know what to do about it. While I was in the wind on that run, I knew that the moment it went from fun to nightmare wasn't because of any actual danger. I wasn't too cold, I wasn't hurt, I wasn't about to die. It was my nervous system saying that we were just being all done, thank you very much. And if you can find a way to see what's going on with you, you can also understand how to move through it. For me, it meant finishing my race. For you, it might have meant something else. You can see a photo from the finish line on Humans Outside on Facebook and Instagram, and I am all smiles there, by the way, because I am no longer in the wind. There are no photos from the nightmare because, well, who has the time to take photos during a wind nightmare? I want to see photos of your outdoor adventures, big and small too. Share them with me on Facebook and Instagram with #HumansOutside365. Until next time, we'll see you out there.